Welcome to the third module of Continuing Education on Feeding Assistance and Nutrition in the Elderly. This module will discuss the process of assisting elderly at mealtimes. This module will take approximately 20 minutes to complete. After completing this module, you will be familiar with preparations to do before mealtime to decrease interruptions during the meal, learn the different types of feeding assistance, understand the importance of communication and taking your time while feeding residents, and learn what to do after the meal is complete. Mealtime is the main time food and fluids are consumed. This can also be a time of social enjoyment due to the company of others. For elderly, mealtime can be frustrating due to eating or feeding difficulties that may occur. This can make it less enjoyable and therefore decrease food and fluid intake. We will now discuss before meal preparations. The before meal preparations we are going to discuss can make mealtime go smoother for you and the residents. Before the meal is delivered, ask if the residents need to use the bathroom. If they need to, take them or find someone to take them to the bathroom. This can help avoid the interruption of bathroom use during the meal. Make sure the resident washes their hands thoroughly with soap and water, or at least uses hand sanitizer if their hands are not visibly soiled before the meal. You should also take part in this activity to make sure you have rid your hands of contaminants and bacteria. Make sure the resident is positioned correctly and comfortably in their chair or wheelchair. If they are not, help or find someone to help reposition them. Make sure they are seated in a spot that they enjoy, possibly with some other residents they enjoy talking to. If the residents have assigned seats and your residents are unhappy with this seating arrangement, tell whomever is in charge of this arrangement immediately to prevent any negative feelings. Finally, make sure the residents have all mealtime equipment they need, such as hearing aids to hear others, glasses to see the food, dentures for chewing, or assistive mealtime devices. Due to some of the residents having a decline in the ability to self-feed, assistive mealtime devices may be necessary to help them keep eating as independently as possible. Assistive mealtime devices are any type of equipment that can aid in self-feeding. This can include weighted or large-handled utensils, which are easier for those who have a decreased hand grip strength or pain from arthritis to hold. Plate guards that snap onto the plate to make a side higher, or built-up bowls that have built-in higher sides to make it easier to manipulate food onto a spoon or fork. Non-skid mats to help plates stay in place during feeding, and sippy cups that are easier for those who have unsteady or poor hand control or have a decreased hand grip strength to drink from. All of these devices are extremely important to the residents at mealtimes. Make sure to check if the residents you are assisting need any adaptive devices. If so, make sure to get them to the residents before the meal begins. Before the meal is delivered, check the resident's prescribed therapeutic and texture-modified diet. Residents may have a food or fluid consistency change due to difficulty chewing or swallowing to help prevent choking and ease swallowing. Food can have consistencies such as regular, soft, mechanically altered, or pureed. Fluid also can have a consistency change to textures such as nectar, honey, or pudding consistency for ease of swallowing. Some residents may also have a therapeutic diet ordered. This diet is ordered to help them manage disease or certain conditions. A few diets that can be ordered include diabetic, salt restriction or no added salt, renal, low fat, or high calorie, high protein. It is important that the residents get their ordered food consistencies and therapeutic diets to prevent harm or adverse side effects. These diets will be discussed in further depth in Module 4. Remember to take part in all the preparations discussed before the meal begins to save time by preventing interruptions during the meal. We will next discuss things that should be done directly after the meal is delivered to a resident. After all before meal preparations are finished, the next step is the meal delivery. As soon as the meal is delivered, make sure your residents were given the proper diet. If you are unsure if the food corresponds to the correct diet, ask whoever is delivering it or one of the food service staff to identify what type of diet the plate is. If it is incorrect, send it back. Also, be sure the food consistency is in compliance with what is ordered for the resident. Make sure hot food is hot and cold food is cold. If the resident complains about food being the wrong temperature or not liking it, send it back. Try to familiarize yourself with what food alternatives are available for the residents or where the list of these items is available so that you can make suggestions. Once the meal is delivered, be sure to help all residents who need it by opening packets or cartons, cutting up foods, putting spread on rolls, breads, or toast, peeling fruits, offering and opening condiments, making sure all food items are within reach, and that the resident has a straw, if they are allowed. Make sure all of these steps are done before the actual eating process begins. After the meal is delivered and everything is correct with the resident's food, the actual eating process can begin. To begin, we will go over basic guidelines for assisting and feeding residents at mealtimes. Be sure you are feeding and assisting the resident how you would want to be fed and assisted. If you were in their position, how would you want someone to feed and assist you? Forcefully, not paying attention to you, being kind and listening? Think about that before you assist someone next time, and make sure you treat them how you would want to be treated. Do not offer help to residents who do not need it. If they ask for help, help them. If they don't, do not force your help upon them. Respect the residents' food choices. If they choose foods that you would not normally eat, do not speak negatively of it, as this may discourage them from eating it. Sit with the residents you are assisting or feeding. Sitting with them puts you at the same level, making feeding easier and makes it more personable. Standing over them can make it seem like you are in a hurry. Use positive comments to describe the food. Tell them how good it looks or smells. Never use negative language to describe it because this can impact how the elderly person looks at it. Identify the pureed foods to the residents that are consuming it. Pureed food is hard to distinguish when you do not know what it is. Pureed green beans could be mistaken for pureed peas, asparagus, or other green vegetables. Talk and socialize with the resident at mealtimes. This is a time for conversation and food intake. Talk to the residents about their day or the weather outside. Offer liquids between solid foods. Offering liquids can help with swallowing and clearing food out of the mouth and also promote fluid intake. Finally, if the resident gets a nutritional supplement, such as a shake or pudding, be sure to encourage them to consume this. If a nutritional supplement is ordered, it means this person is at risk for or is malnourished. Make sure to encourage the supplement. During the meal, many types of assistance is used to help residents with food and fluid consumption. There are 5 main types that we will focus on. The first being minimal assistance. With minimal assistance, the resident can still feed themselves but may need a little help setting up their meals. They may need help putting on the clothing protector, opening condiments or other food products, cutting food, spreading a condiment on toast or bread, uncovering the food plate, placing a straw in a beverage, or unwrapping food items. Verbal prompting is a verbal type of assistance. The resident can still physically self-feed but may need help staying on track. Verbal prompting can include brief or direct cues, encouragement of food and fluid intake, or encouragement of swallowing and chewing. Here are some examples of appropriate verbal cues for different situations. If a resident stops eating, Try saying in a nice manner, "Try taking another bite of your food." "You should try your soup. It smells delicious." "Those mashed potatoes look and smell delicious." Under the difficulty taking in fluids bullet, there are 4 examples of verbal cues. Can you pick out the cue that is inappropriate? If you chose, "Why don't you drink your water?" you were correct. Beginning a verbal cue with "why" is never a good idea because this can put someone on the defense right away. Instead, try saying, "Try some of your water, Mr. Smith," or "Take a sip of water," in a polite manner, which is more appropriate. Some residents may also forget to chew their food or not chew it well enough. In these cases, simply stating "chew," "chew some more," or "keep chewing" can cue the resident to chew food adequately. Some residents have difficulty swallowing or forget to swallow. They may need a reminder. Telling them "you may swallow now" or simply "swallow" can cue them to take this action. Nonverbal prompting is giving cues to the resident through gestures instead of words. The resident can still feed themselves but may need help staying on track. Examples of nonverbal prompts include pointing to a food if the resident stops eating, like in the picture below, or touching the resident's hand to draw attention to the utensils in hand and food if they get distracted or stop eating. These actions can signify them to keep eating or drinking. Physical guidance is for residents who need help feeding themselves. This many times results in hand-over-hand feeding, in which you place your hands on top of the residents and complete the task together. This may be used when residents are relearning how to eat when the ability is lost, need help spreading condiments on food, have difficulty lifting utensils or piercing food with a fork, or for those who are tired and weak and have a hard time feeding themselves independently. This lets the residents still feed themselves, but with your guidance. The last type of feeding assistance that we will discuss is full physical assistance. The resident can no longer feed themselves when this type of assistance is used. They are completely dependent on others for all food and fluids. Guidelines when this type of assistance is used is to fill the spoon half full and offer the tip of the spoon. Place that spoon in the middle of the resident's tongue. Continue in a slow-paced manner. Offer the most nutritious foods first, such as nutritional supplements and fruits, vegetables, or meats. Leave desserts for last. Alternate liquids and solids to promote fluid intake and the clearing of food out of the mouth before another bite. If the resident is eating very slowly, do not show your impatience. This can discourage them from eating. Make sure to wipe the resident's face with a napkin as needed. Finally, offer alternatives if the resident doesn't like what is being offered. Each of these types of feeding assistance is crucial to helping in food and fluid consumption of residents at mealtimes.